Happening now on Grid tonight. Marquez will miss the MotoGP race this weekend at COTA, the Grand Prix of the Americas, after suffering an injury in Portugal. Can Marquez ever rediscover his old form, or is it too late with injuries really starting to take a toll? Formula One will debut a revised format for the sprint races at Baku. Will the changes finally help sell the idea of sprint races to the skeptics at the pinnacle of motorsport? Chase Elliott will return to racing on Sunday afternoon at Martinsville Speedway. Could this be a long and difficult race for a driver just returning from injury at a track like this? Hello to all our viewers watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Kobe Lambert from the Podium Finish, and with me is Joshua Birch and Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index. We encourage everyone to comment in the chat below and ask questions. Now here's Josh with our top story this evening.
Nice shirt, Kobe. I like that colour as well. That was not planned, so it happened again. We've all got the same wardrobe. Yeah, it's like Coulthard and Eddie Jordan all those years ago in Canada. Okay, starting the show, after crashing into Jorge Martin and Miguel Oliveira at the Portuguese Grand Prix, Marc Marquez was declared unfit as well for the Argentina round a week later. Sadly, he is also set to miss this weekend's America's Grand Prix at COTA, the track, of course, where he claimed his first pole and win back in 2013, and where he has won and been on the podium 7 of the last 9 times. In a statement he published on social media, he said, "Hi everyone, I just had a CAT scan and it was confirmed that the bone is still in the process of healing. And after talking with the medical team, we have decided not to take any risks, and therefore I won't be able to ride in Austin. I will continue working and rehabilitating as I have been doing so far to be able to get back on the bike as soon as possible. Thanks for your support. See you soon," with the crossed fingers emoji. Now, he will be replaced by Repsol Honda reserve rider Stefan Bradl, who will ride alongside Johan Mir, who is back from a sprint injury in Argentina after he missed the main Grand Prix. But, gentlemen, bringing you in, first question is a biggie. Will Marc Marquez be forced into retirement due to the number of accidents he is having? And how much can his body actually take? Because in the last 3 seasons now, he's only raced in 27 out of the last 52 races.
That's a massive stat, which I didn't realise was a thing until you popped it in the script this afternoon, Josh. Apologies now for trying to breathe through a cold, and if I look and sound terrible, then I apologise. Normal service will be resumed next week. Marquez, injuries, yes. Not good, is it? Another one missed. Probably one of the 2 tracks pre-season we would have written his name in pen to have a victory here in the Saxon Ring. As you said, he's been really, really good around here. And don't forget, was on course for another victory in 2019 when he fell off in the lead and Alex Rins came through to win on the Suzuki. So this is a big one that he would have had marked down as an opportunity to win. Looked like it was going okay at Portimao before the crash in the Grand Prix, which took him out and has caused this injury. So not good on that part, but I don't know what's going to come first. Change of manufacturer for Marquez, because that's, been bubbling around in the background for the last little while, or injuries that just, end up costing him the end of his career, potentially. We saw that with Mick Doohan, of course, back at the end of the 90s, an injury that ended his career slightly early, another Honda ace from back in the day. So I said after that crash in the Grand Prix, it was old Mark back, rash move, and any other injury. Maybe that it is old Mark back again, but it's been a terrible couple of years, hasn't it? Since the pandemic, basically, that crash at Jerez in the first race of 2020, the delayed start to the season, it's just been terrible. And as the stat says, missed pretty much half the Grand Prix since. And if he can get back here from this injury and then maybe stay fit for the rest of the season, let's keep, as he has with the emoji there, keep his fingers crossed that he can be fit for the rest of the season and fight for victories. But again, if he gets another serious one, a couple of broken bones, or a leg or an arm, hopefully not for his sake, an arm again, or a shoulder or something, then that may be the end for Mark. But let's hope he can stay fit.
Yeah, it's been really unfortunate seeing Marquez suffer all of these injuries. I remember when he was on the top of his game in MotoGP and winning all those races, championships, and look at him now. He can't stay on the racetrack. Kind of like you see in basketball, they can't stay on the court. In football, can't stay on the field. And it's really crazy that Marquez has only been in 51.9% of the MotoGP races in the last 3 seasons, which is a really wild stat. And it would be super unfortunate if he continues to take if these injuries continue to take a massive toll on his body and he's forced into early retirement. Because if it wasn't for the injuries, think of all of the got a little tongue tied there, but think of all the races that Marquez could have won if it wasn't for his injury, and potentially championships he could have won as well. Yeah, we really hate to see this happening. So hopefully once he recovers from this will be the last injury that he'll suffer for a very long time that could keep him out of even more races. And Matt, you said it, a lot of people coming into the Grand Prix of the Americas, we probably pick Marquez to be the winner. And I actually said a few weeks ago, if you guys remember, I said Marquez is going to be my pick a winner. Now I have to change and with someone else. I don't know who that's going to be yet. Thankfully, I still have a few more days to decide on that.
Yeah, I'm always having to change my pick a winner as well after this latest development. Not fun at all. And just a quick stat as well. If you remember, in 2019, that was the last full season Marc Marquez completed. He was either first or second in every race, bar the Circuit of the Americas where he crashed out. So out of the 18 races we had that year, 17 of them were first or second, always on the podium. Insane. So we know he's definitely got the pace in him to be a world champion. We've seen that 6 times in the Premier Class 2 in the juniors. But when he returns, can he still be in the hunt for the World Championship, despite effectively missing 3 races as well, with the new sprint format having half points awarded? So technically, he's missed the 2 and 2 sprint races, making together 3 full Grand Prix.
To be honest, Josh, I don't really see Marquez as a contender this year for the championship. Maybe if he gets that injury all healed up, we could see him in contention for podiums, get a few race wins. But as we've seen the last few seasons, there's no guarantee that Marquez is going to be that. There's no telling if he can be reliable in terms of staying healthy, if he's going to be able to stay on the track for the rest of the season. And I hate to say it, but it wouldn't surprise me if he goes out again later this year with another injury. Yeah, and we've seen this happen to a lot of great athletes over the years, where the injuries start to take a toll, and then you see them off the track, off the court, off the field more than you actually see them competing, as we've seen with Marquez. And we'll see we'll see what he's able to do when he comes back. And as I said, hopefully he'll be able to stay healthy.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting thing to follow. But you look where Mark is, wrong way. You look where Mark is, and then the rest of the Honda. There's a big gulf from Mark back to the rest of the Honda contingent. Obviously, as Josh mentioned, Mir missed the Grand Prix in Argentina after his sprint race crash. So he said in his tweet or statement, whatever it was that he put out this morning, that he was back to 100%, ready to go. Let's see what that actually entails once we get on track in practice on Friday down in Austin. But if Mark can stay fit, he's already in the hole in the championship. And will he then override the Honda, which isn't the best bike on the grid, and then cause himself some more misdemeanors through the summer? We'll have to follow that one with interest.
Absolutely. And there's a quick comment here that I'll pop up from Adam saying, do you think Marquez will retire at the end of the year due to injuries as well? We were talking about, could he be forced to retire? But I don't know if you two have seen the Marquez documentary. I was talking with a friend of mine as well, and he was saying how he watched the Marc Marquez documentary, and Mark was physically crying at the thought of even having to stop as well. So I don't think Marquez will take the decision himself to stop. I agree with you, he could be forced to stop with the injuries. But do you both think it could come as early as this year? I'll start with you, Matt.
It all depends if he can stay fit for the rest of the year. Then obviously probably not. He's more likely to change team at the end of the season potentially. I don't know where he'll go, but he might walk away from Honda at the end of the season, maybe to KTM. that's the strongest of the rumor, than retire. We have to wait and see if he does bang himself up again. We know he's had vision problems and concussion issues, and the shoulder he's had complaints about, and then the arm issue that he's had since that big crash in Jerez a couple of years ago. He's just he's only a small man. Is Marc Marquez. He's not big in stature. His championships are, but he as a person is not big in stature. So those washing machine crashes that we see in MotoGP, where they ragdoll themselves through the gravel, a bit like Pol Espargaro had at Portimao a few weeks ago, they take their toll on the body. If he can keep himself on the bike for the rest of the season, then I don't think Adam's kind of question really comes into focus. It's only if he falls off and hurts himself again.
Yeah, I totally have to agree with you, Matt. I think changing teams is probably going to be more likely for Marquez. And as you said, unless he suffers another serious injury, let's say, for example, I'm not wishing any bad luck on him or something. Let's say he injures that arm that he's had a lot of trouble with again, and it's another really bad arm injury, or if he falls off the bike and gets broken up really badly, where it's going to be like 8 months, 9 month recovery to try to get back on. I think something like that might force him into retirement. But even with all these other small injuries, they'll really take a toll. And MotoGP, one of the most dangerous form of racing in the world. You don't have fenders. If you get clipped and go off the bike, you're gonna be sliding, and their bodies take a beating. It's almost looking at the injuries these MotoGP riders suffer, it's almost like that they're riding on a bull in the PBR, and those bull riders, they suffer some really significant injuries. And I think we can put the MotoGP guys up there as well, because when they fall off the bikes, it's like, oh my goodness, close my eyes, I hope nothing bad happens.
And they're going to have to be riding that bull this weekend in Austin, Texas for the America's Grand Prix. We'll be covering it in the pre-show as well, and the post-show after the NASCAR race as well. Both pretty much similar times coming up on this weekend. Of course, got IndyCar coming up, so that's going to be a fun show over the weekend. Okay, second story, and this one is the sort of big, juicy one to get our teeth into, because it's a whole new format for Formula One. And it all started because Frederic Vasseur has given a statement this week that all 10 Formula One teams have agreed for a new race weekend format for the 6 events this season to have a sprint. Now, currently, the format has a single practice session on Friday before qualifying later in the afternoon. Saturday has a final hour of practice before the sprint race in the evening, with points and starting positions on the line for the main Grand Prix on Sunday. Now, many in the paddock have been critical of the format, as there is not much that can be done with the cars on Saturday morning's practice session, because they are locked in to Parc Fermé regulations, meaning no work can be done with the setup changes. Now, the new proposal is for Friday to remain the same, but with the qualifying session, that will now set the grid for Sunday's Grand Prix only. Saturday will now become a standalone event, and that will be for the sprint only, with a shorter second qualifying session in the morning replacing the practice session. And that sets the grid for the sprint race. Now, Frederic Vasseur gave this statement as well in an interview to Italian media on Sky, then was rebroadcast by Autosport and many other publications. It says, "For once, I think all the teams were aligned. It's not very often that this is the case, so we have to jump on it. For sure, the format is more dynamic. You can discuss about to do it so late, but at the end of the day, I think that if we are all aligned, then we have to push for it. I like the format. I'm not a big fan of the usual FP2. Sometimes it's a bit boring." Now, coming in with Kobe and Matt once again, with the new format suggested, will this help F1 sell the idea of sprint races now it no longer affects the Grand Prix?
Well, Josh, for starters, I'm in full favor of dropping a practice session that I don't really think is necessary, but I'm not sure if Formula One will ever be able to convince me personally of the idea that sprint races are necessary at pinnacle of motorsport. Is really nice to at least see the teams be able to come together here and agree of what to do moving forward. Try to add some extra excitement, some spice to the weekend. We'll see how the new sprint race format works in Formula One. this season, and if they're going to make even more changes to the format. I'm not trying to give Formula One any ideas of what I'm about to say, since we're moving into the idea of gimmicks. How about for the sprint race, where we start the slowest cars on the grid at the front of the field and the fastest cars at the back, and see if Max Verstappen can go from 20th to first? I think that would be a very interesting show to see how that would turn up, but I'm pretty sure they're not going to do anything so silly like that.
Interesting that the team boss of probably the biggest and most well-known team in Formula One has said that free practice is boring. There's a snippet, isn't it? I used to love the old one-shot qualifying. The current qualifying system is great, but I did really used to like the one-shot qualifying format that we had before that. So that'd be good if it kind of comes back. I have to agree with Kobe. Not really sure that sprint races are the way forward anyway. But yeah, if it brings that more into focus for a Saturday, that'll be good. Of course, we had that. Was it Josh? You'll know. Was it last year or the year before? We had that round at Imola where they condensed and we had less practice. Maybe that's more of the way to go, and maybe swoop it round that way. More about Imola coming up later in the show. But maybe they need to do something like that more than adding more qualifying sessions. So the casual fan won't know what qualifying sessions for what races and who's going to be where, and he crashed yesterday, so why is he in second on the grid or whatever. Just more confusion for the casual fan.
To be fair, I think I've got two ideas of what the perfect format would be. The first would be for a 90-minute practice session on the Friday. Saturday, on a normal weekend, we'll have just qualifying in the afternoon, because then that gives more time for the junior series to breathe a little bit on the Saturdays, because they're very hemmed in at the moment. And Sunday we get the main Grand Prix. 3 sessions is all we need. Ideally, we could condense that to 2 days, so the Friday becomes juniors only. Saturday morning we'll have a practice session of 90 minutes, qualifying the afternoon, race on Sunday. There's no reason to have the sprint races come in. I'm with Kobe that I'm still not 100% sold with them. With MotoGP, I am 100% sold, because I think that they've been some really classic races because they've done it right. Soft tyres only, full out for their fun. And Matthew Owen says, boy, oh boy, we are really trying to change the face of motorsport for the casual fan. Yeah, I agree with him as well. It's like the stages in NASCAR, and everyone was sort of like, well, why they come in? It's splitting up the main race. And this is effectively what sprint racing was. We had 1/3 of a Grand Prix on Saturday and 2/3 on the Sunday, because the grid was manipulated beforehand for Sunday's race. So it was a very long red flag. So I'm really happy they've changed the format. Saturday now becomes solo with a qualifying that does look to be a single lap shootout, but with all the cars on the track. Personally, I would much like it if they say, okay, we're going to do single lap for every single car. That'd be much more fun to see, because then we get the best of both worlds. We get a full qualifying on the Friday and a single lap glory run on Saturday morning as well. I'd wake up at 3 a.m. for that if we do it in Japan. So I definitely think this is a step in the right direction, but it's not making a lot of drivers happy. And one of those drivers is Verstappen. During the press conference at the end of the Australian Grand Prix, he was quoted, "That's my internet disappearing thanks to the storms outside. I do apologise. Hello, sorry about that. It's my internet going thanks to the storms. I'll restart what I was saying. I was saying Max Verstappen is not happy about this new format, because during the press conference post-race for the Australian Grand Prix, he said he wouldn't be around much longer with Formula One if the bosses kept messing around with the DNA of the sport. This is what he actually said during the press conference. I hope there won't be too many changes, otherwise I won't be around for too long. I'm not a fan of it all. When we do all that kind of stuff, the weekend becomes very intense, and we already do a lot of races. A sprint race is all about surviving and not racing. It's not worth taking a risk when you have a quick car. I prefer to keep my car alive to make sure I have a good race car for Sunday. Even if you change the format, I don't find it is in the DNA of Formula One to do these kind of sprint races. So my question for you two is the DNA of the sport being corrupted? And is Verstappen serious with his statement of quitting Formula One?
Well, it's an interesting comment, isn't it, from the current double world champion to come out with that. They will have to take notice of Liberty because he won't be the only one that has that view. Let's not forget that Max had a moan about the Le Mans virtual race a few months ago as well, and he's been back on sim racing since. Just saying. Who knows? I stand with Max in the case of I don't want there to be MotoGP style sprint races every weekend. It does defeat the purpose of the Grand Prix. I don't know. There's a lot of water to go under the bridge, and this, I know he said it at Melbourne, and this whole section of the show, to me, kind of is the Formula One news cycle churning away in the background because we don't have a Grand Prix for 4 weeks, and lots of it probably might not come to pass.
After the Australian Grand Prix, what did I say on our Great Network programs? I said that it seems like Formula One was putting entertainment over the integrity of the sport. I don't know if I go as far to say that the DNA of the sport is being corrupted, but I certainly think, you know, with these sprint races, this format, that they really want to try to get something entertaining out of these races, and especially, you know, this year, since after a few races, we haven't really seen the most exciting action across the board. So I'm sure they're hoping that the sprint races will give us something really exciting to talk about on the track. And thinking about the first few races this season and all that, and man, 2021 spoiled us a lot because that was such a great Formula One season. I hope we get something like that in the future. But for now, it's a Red Bull world, and we're just living in it. And in regards to Max Verstappen talking about quitting Formula One, I don't think that's a serious statement. I think he just said. I think he knows that his voice carries been a double world champion now, and he's going to say something like that, so people in Formula One will notice. But overall, I don't think he's going to be quitting Formula One anytime soon. Well, maybe if they add 26 races to the schedule because of that point, you're going to be reaching massive burnout. It seems like people are already getting burnout with the calendar that we have right now.
Yeah, 15 days to go until the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. We still don't know what format we're going to be racing with, and we still don't know exactly how it's going to play out. Matthew says, I really don't get it. I don't see other sports, football, American football, tennis, basketball, etc., changing its sport to try and bring in casual fans. I don't get it. You're either a fan or not. I do agree. Adam agrees as well. It's ridiculous. But I did see Simon Lazenby quote as well that cricket has sort of done it as well. We've had the pure cricket of test match cricket, and then now we've got the T20 coming in, which is a shorter, sweeter format to get fans in. It's worked there. Formula One have gone, oh, this could work here, and have brought in the sprints. MotoGP have taken that risk of putting sprints at every single round. But let me tell you something. As soon as a world champion is crowned in a sprint race, they'll go out the door, because everybody will be up in social media. It'll be worse than Abu Dhabi 21. But I do agree with you, Kobe, as well. We will never have another season like 2021. We almost had the perfect season as well, if it wasn't for the ending as well. Definitely one of the best I've commentated on, and definitely one of the best in F1 history, depending on what side you're on. Okay, on to our third story of the evening as well. It's a bit of a good news story as well, because NASCAR's most popular driver is back. Yes, Chase Elliott will return to the seat of the number 9 Chevrolet on Sunday afternoon at Martinsville Speedway. Elliott makes his return to the NASCAR Cup Series after missing the last 6 races. Blimey, 6 already. After fracturing his tibia on March the 3rd while snowboarding in Colorado. He spent the majority of March going through rehab in Colorado before returning home to Dawsonville, Georgia in late March to continue his physical therapy. Yesterday, Elliott was medically cleared to return to competition, and the 2020 Cup champion spent Tuesday afternoon and Wednesday morning in the Chevrolet simulator before making the decision to return at the paper clip. Team owner Rick Hendrick said he's looking forward to having Chase back in the car and picking up right where he left off. Elliott has also received a medical waiver from NASCAR to remain playoff eligible if he wins a race. And during his 2015 championship season, Kyle Busch missed the first 11 races of the year and went on to have a very strong year, despite suffering injury in that Xfinity race at Daytona. everyone on Grid Network knows my stances on Cup drivers racing in Truck and Xfinity Series. Now, when it comes to a track like Martinsville, drivers have to get on the brakes pretty hard at lots of contact should be expected. And the graphic courtesy there of Hendrick Motorsports. Matt, first of all, I would be willing to say Martinsville is about the worst oval to return to racing on. He's going to be physically pushed as a result as he's ever been. So that's from Matthew there as well. And Matt, coming to you, can Chase Elliott win the Cup title this year after suffering a major leg injury like Kyle Busch? And could Martinsville be a very challenging race for him physically, as Matthew said?
Yeah, he's taken the words right out of my mouth there, as Mr. Owens, just because he's watching. Chase Elliott is back, folks. We've missed him for the last few weeks. What a shame that Josh Berry couldn't come up at the end of that race last week at Richmond and pull the rabbit out of the hat with the tyre strategy. That would have been a real coup just before Josh steps back out of the 9 car and into back into his Xfinity ride full time. But yes, Martinsville, he's got some history there, hasn't he, Chase Elliott, over the last few seasons. It is going to be, I agree, one of probably the worst places to come back with a leg injury, because it's going to be, okay, it's not 500 miles anymore. It's only a 400-mile race the weekend on Sunday. Oh, by the way, Kyle Busch in the truck race at the weekend, just to grind your teeth some more, as you mentioned that before. But yeah, going to be a big one for Chase. It's going to be good to see him back. Hopefully that will bring some people back to their televisions, because that may have been one of the factors that the ratings have been going down without Chase Elliott to cheer on. So that we'll have to see if that adds to the ratings next week when we get the numbers. But it's going to be good to see him back. How will he go? Who knows? You know, the simulator's one thing, but actually getting in the car and doing it for real for 3-4 hours on Sunday is going to be a test. Okay, it's not massively hot, so that's one thing he doesn't have to probably worry about. But just being in the car and getting the reps in is going to get, he'll be sore on Monday, that you can be sure. He would have been probably better off coming back at a track like Kansas in a couple of weeks, or a mile and a half or somewhere like that, that's a little bit less taxing potentially on the body. But probably wants to get his reps in, because he's probably got a half a decent chance of winning at Talladega, which is coming up next weekend. By the way, that's USRN's 200th Cup race. We're looking forward to getting together for the USRN 200 at Talladega, our 200th Cup broadcast next weekend. So looking forward to that. But yeah, let's see how Chase goes this weekend. It's going to be interesting to see how he goes, and if he goes well, that's a good thing. The first Martinsville race after I had the Hail Melon move, of course, at the end of last year. So that'll be plastered all over the screens of Fox over the weekend.
Can't wait for that. And 200, really, wow. Next weekend, it's I think it's my birthday next weekend. Or was that the 17th next weekend? 21st is my birthday of April. So either way, I'm getting a green screen. I might just add in the background, Cup drivers, stay where you are, something like that, because I'm just tired of saying it. You get one injury, you wreck your season in a lower class. It's just, it boggles the mind as why they do it. Okay, Matt, I'm going to go and put a cold compress on my head to stop the headache forming as well. So please do take it away with the latest from Grid EPI.
Thanks, Josh. Big week. We are about to launch the first top 10 of the season. Before we bring you the graphic and show you who's where at the beginning of this second year of the Endurance Performance Index, let's bring up to speed with what happened at the weekend. Races 16 through 20 of 147, it's now been calculated, in the year-long Endurance Championship for endurance and sports car racers. 4 races, as I say, 2 at Bathurst in the GT World Challenge Australia, both of them won by young Austrian Max Hofer and his teammate for the weekend, Liam Talbot. They had to come through in the second one, but won it with a lap or so to spare. That was supporting not an EPI race, but because it's Bathurst, we have to mention it. The High-Tech Oils Bathurst 6 Hour for production cars, that was won by Jaden Ojeda and Simon Hodges in their BMW, but that is not an EPI race. And also at the weekend, new to the EPI, we broke this on Saturday that British GT will be joining the ranking for this year. 2 races up at Alton Park on Easter Monday. James Cottingham and Johnny Adam won the first one in the morning after almost all of the front four ended up in the gravel trap at the last corner in slippery and changeable conditions. Jules Gounon and Ian Loggy coming through in that D2 Mercedes livery of old, the old DTM spec livery, coming through to win the second race in the afternoon. So there were the winners from the weekend. Let's have a look then at the top 10 as we stand. 20 races down with 100 of the 147. And it's the Asian Le Mans Series LMP2 champion Sally Yolok who is top of the standings on 19 points. He has about a 4-point lead or so on Belgian Dries Van Voor. He's been one of the stars of the early season, but has had a couple of non-finishes, which puts him into second. Charlie Eastwood, another Turk, Archie Gouvan, so 2 Turks in the top 4 there, and Colin Braun, the top American so far in the standings. As I say, we've got 147 races in this year-long championship, so plenty to go. We've got a busy weekend coming up this weekend with the third round of the NLS. That's the Nürburgring Endurance Championship. That's on Saturday afternoon, European time. Saturday evening, European time, is the IMSA race at Long Beach for the Long Beach Grand Prix. And then on Sunday morning, the first round of Super GT and the second round of the WEC at Portimao. So a massive weekend to come. Just a quick note as well before we move on. 210 people have got points against their name so far in the Endurance Performance Index of 2023. There's the top 60. So you can see how some of the names are dotted around in there, and lots of things will shuffle their way into place with WEC this weekend, and then the European Le Mans Series and GT World Challenge Europe the weekend after that. Jules Gounon is top of the starts list. He has raced in 12 of the 20 races that we've had so far, and he is their 45th on the list on 8.31. So he may have been in a lot of the races, but he hasn't scored particularly many points, even though he got a win at the weekend at Alton and won the Bathurst 12 Hour and at Dubai. So the races where he hasn't won, he hasn't really done so well. Top female, by the way, is Ashton Harrison from the American rank. She is 122nd at this moment in time. Last year's winner, Raffaele Marciello, yet to get off the mark in terms of wins. He is 65th in the EPI as we head into, as I say, the big week of NLS 3, IMSA at Long Beach, WEC at Portimao, and Super GT getting their season off and running at Okayama. The old Grand Prix circuit was called TT Aida back in the Formula One days, so their first round there. So, guys, big weekend for sports cars, and massive weekend with terms of IMSA and WEC. 2 big scoring races, and IMSA's third race of the season, so they'll be eligible, if they're not already, into the EPI this week. So who are we looking at? Who have you got an eye on for the season, really? Who do you think is going to jump up and take the title away from Raffaele Marciello from last year? Any takers you fancy from this early portion of the year?
I was quite liking the look of Daniel Juncadella, who was down. I was just noticing on the first half of the page. I think he was 17th. Just Daniel Juncadella. Oh, he's 19th actually. Delatraz and Mazepin just ahead of him, but that's actually quite surprising for Daniel as well. Back down there. So he could be a late bloomer. He does quite well in the upcoming wet races, especially well at Le Mans, when I'm commentated on as well. I'm just always surprised to see James Allen, who was, of course, a racing driver, but to me, Matt would know him more as a commentator. James Allen, of course, was a different person who commentated on ITV F1. But I'll be looking at Daniel Juncadella down there in 19th position more across the season. Yeah,
that's the Australian James Allen who was the winner of that photo finish in LMP2 at Daytona at the beginning of the year, and also I think he has a win from memory without looking at the spreadsheet to his name from the Asian Le Mans Series as well. So he is out there. Kobe, anyone you fancy for this weekend? We've got that Long Beach race on Saturday. That's going to be a street fight on the streets of Long Beach on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun seeing those IMSA GTP cars with the hybrid power on the streets of Long Beach, blowing down Shoreline Drive. And the one driver that I'm going to look at who could potentially be the next, or the great EPI champion, the driver who's in 10, Philippe Albuquerque. We know Philippe's going to be running full-time with Wayne Taylor Racing with Andretti Autosport again. I think him and Ricky Taylor are going to be opponent team. I think that they could be one of the favorites to win the this weekend's Acura Grand Prix of Long Beach, and potentially a favorite for the season title as well. And Philippe keeps very busy in IMSA, and the World Endurance Championship has some strong racing programs. So it would not surprise me if we see him move up the grid, EPI grid, out of the top 10 and into the top 5 or even better.
Yeah, absolutely. Because of course they were second at Daytona, and of course the 60 Meyer Shankar had their win taken away. We've kept their win in the points because they did take away the trophy for EPI, and of course they were Albuquerque was second there at the end of Sebring before it all went horribly wrong. I sat and watched that race over the Easter weekend, and it was thoroughly enjoyed. Looking forward to that. Long Beach at the weekend is going to be excellent, as it always is, to see those cars bouncing themselves off the concrete walls. So that's a big one. We'll bring you the news of all those results and a updated top 10 bracket for you next week. Just quick note, Ricardo Feller there in 8th position. He's the top guy who has not yet scored a win to his name. So he's doing pretty well for himself. But it'll all change this week with WSC and IMSA, IMSA becomes eligible. You have to have 3 starts in any series to become eligible in the points, and it's their 3rd round of the season. So big changes in the points to come. We'll give you the update next week.
Yeah, and next we're going to move on with some more motorsports news from around the world. For some reason, these last couple of weeks, that we haven't really seen many news stories, so my section is going to be short and sweet tonight. And with our first story, the second race of the 2023 European Le Mans Series season at Imola on May 7th has been postponed. And until further notice, there's been a delay to the completion of building work happening at the Italian circuit, home to Formula One's Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, which is set to take place 2 weeks later on May 21st. The European Le Mans Series is currently working urgently to find an alternative solution with the circuit management and competitors. An update on the 4 hours of Imola will be announced at a later date. Meanwhile, the 2023 ELMS season gets underway on April 23rd in Spain for the 4 hours of Barcelona. Next, some quick NASCAR news. NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series regular Corey Haim will make his Xfinity debut at the end of the month at Dover Motor Speedway. Haim will drive the number 24 Toyota Supra for Sam Hunt Racing as he continues to run full-time in the Truck Series with Tricon Garage. After making several starts on road courses in the Truck and Xfinity Series, Brad Perez will make his NASCAR Oval Racing debut. Perez will drive the number 20 Chevrolet Silverado for Young's Motorsports this Friday night in the truck race at Martinsville. And after making a cup start with Live Fast Motorsports at Richmond, Anthony Alfredo will return to the seat of the number 78 Chevrolet Camaro on Sunday afternoon at Martinsville Speedway with sponsorship from Andy's Frozen Custard, graphic you see on the screen, courtesy of Live Fast Motorsports. And one final story, defending Truck Series champion Zane Smith will compete in the cup race at Martinsville, driving the number 51 Ford Mustang for Rick Ware Racing. Smith replaces Cody Ware, who has been suspended definitely by NASCAR after he was arrested by the Iredell County Sheriff's Office. And next, here's Matt with our Hots or Not segment. We don't really have a lot to choose from this week with very limited racing.
Yeah, quiet-ish weekend. It was pretty busy this side of the pond. We had Superbike and British GT and British Rallycross started and TCR at Snetterton. So we had a lot of stuff going on over here, as it always is a busy weekend in the UK for motorsport action. I'll start with my hot, and it comes from Silverstone, where the British Superbike Championship got underway. And former double champion Josh Brookes, who's been in the wilderness for the last couple of years, looked like he might be on the fading end of his career, but he bounced back this weekend. He got a race win and he leads the points coming out of Silverstone. Just great to see Josh, who's had a couple of awful years on bikes that he didn't get on with on the BMW this season. And back to winning ways, and he comes out of the Silverstone round as the points leader. Josh?
You took the words out of my mouth as well. Admittedly, it was a rare weekend off for me as well, so I was busy doing other things, but I kept my eye on the Superbikes and I watched the first race, and I think my hot must come from the fact that I've now seen 4 different variations of sprint racing. I think MotoGP have got it spot on, because I think the Superbikes sprint for the British one, the first one, it was too long. 22 laps around the national circuit of Silverstone sounds quite quick, but it really isn't. It was a long, slow process. Yes, there's a lot of moves to the lead, but I don't think it kind of worked that well. So I'm just hoping that was race 1 nerves, because as you said, race 2 and race 3 were cracking from Silverstone on the Sunday as well. And I think I'm liking the look of Josh Brookes back, because when I first started watching the Superbikes, it was Cadwell Park on a bank holiday weekend in August as well. And it was Josh Brookes at the front dominating, him and Shaky Byrne as well going out there as well, all getting out there. And it was fun, and I'm liking to see he's back at the front leading the points. Old dog, new tricks. In terms of knots, when you come back to me, Matt, I don't think I've got one because I think my knot was me because I had a weekend off.
Kobe, what was your hot from the weekend? I take it was from Bristol, I would guess.
Yeah, certainly, since that's the only option that we really had. But I'm gonna give a call to a driver who's been on a hot streak lately, and that's the driver to number 38 Ford Mustang from Front Row Motorsports. How about Todd Gillen? In the last 4 races, he's finished in the top 15, 15th at Atlanta, top 10 at COTA, 15th at Richmond, and 8th on Bristol Dirt. And a lot of people forget Todd Gillen recently won the truck race on the dirt at Knoxville, although a lot of people don't really consider him a dirt track specialist. And looking at what Todd Gillen's been through this season, you remember at the start of the year, he got the call that they would not be full-time with Front Row Motorsports, that he'd run most of the races, and then he had to fill in here or there. So Rick Ware Racing is going to help him out with with most of the races that he's scheduled to miss. And then Front Row is going to put him in the number 36 car in an open car without a charter at Talladega coming up in the next weekend. So he'll be able to run the complete season. And for Todd Gillen, considering how the season started and to really be putting together some really good runs here, it certainly has to be a huge boost for his confidence as a driver.
Yeah, exactly. Looking forward to see. Todd's pretty good on the old super speedway, so he might be a factor at Talladega in a couple of weeks' time. Time for the other side of the coin. They're knots. Mine comes from Alton Park. You've probably seen this, the clip that went viral on Saturday.
Yes.
Of the GB3 car rolling backwards across the racetrack with marshals going, "Oh, stop!" In front of the field on the last lap. Yeah, not good in the current safety measures and safety cars and race stoppages and things that we've had over the last couple of weeks. That was not a good thing. Thankfully, it rolled through the field or through the middle of the field as they were coming round to Lodge Corner at Alton Park and missed everybody. Otherwise, that would have been a scary crash. It had no one in it. It was the Ghost Rider car that rolled backwards across the track. So we avoided one there, but that was my knot for the week.
Cracking series of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with Ghost Rider. But yeah, I must admit, I was looking around here just trying to think if I had one of those door stopper blocks, because that's what you need to put back at the car before a driver gets out, especially uphill. Look at what we see at Shells de Wash as well. Uphill start, get the wooden short block, and away you go. That's how you do it. And it was a very foolish error. And I must admit, I was watching that race live. I mean, I had a weekend off a lot, but I was watching it going through, and it was in the background of everything. And I was like, oh, like that. See no evil. Didn't want to see it. It was really, really, literally racing gods taking their hands and just making sure everyone got through okay. My knot that I had is actually something I've mentioned before, and that is the dirt at Bristol, because I'm getting a little bit sick and tired of it, because not in terms of the fact that we shouldn't have a dirt race. I think we should. I enjoyed them, but it's the fact is that we're having it on a circuit which underneath is tarmac, and you can just see it. We had a lot of rain again. It washed out the first day running in the practice, but by the end of the race, they were running around on the tarmac more than the dirt, and it's like it feels like the track's just dirty. It's not the spirit of what NASCAR was founded on. NASCAR, beach racing at Daytona, dirt racing as well, proper. There was no underlying factor. It was dirt or nothing. There was nothing below it. And I think they're trying to recapture it, and it's not working. So I would like a proper dirt circuit where there's no tarmac underneath anything. It's proper mud, properly going for it. Or give us what everybody wants to see. Give us a beach race. Give us a proper throwback to where it all began. If that's what they're trying to do, and bring back North Hillsborough as well and all those lot, if they want to do it, give us a beach race on sand, and let's see how it goes. Because I was getting bored seeing, oh, look, the dirt's back now. What was it, 50 laps in or something? I was bored.
Bring them to Western Supermare, I say. That's a British reference, but not many people will get that. That's a preliminary knock for me, is that we've had dirt racing and green white checkers brought into focus over the last couple of weeks, and maybe we don't want any of these anymore. Maybe what's your knock for the weekend?
Well, there wasn't really much to choose from, so I'm just gonna say the lack of news stories for the last couple of weeks of news cycles. yeah, that definitely has to be my nut. Come on, motorsports guys, give us something good to talk about, so we don't have to like literally reach into the closet to try to pull out a story out of a hat. These last 2 weeks have been very, very hard trying to put together a show for all of you viewers watching around the world, but we managed to pull it together because we have a great team right here at Grid Network, because we're a tight bunch, and we can work through anything.
I second that, and guys, well done. Another great one as well, and I really enjoyed. I think this actually has been one of our best shows, to say as well. I think this flowed really well, considering there hasn't been much to talk about. I've really enjoyed tonight. I enjoy every night, but this one's been something else. Okay, taking a look at our upcoming schedule. Thankfully, this weekend, we won't be strapped for words because there's a lot going on. Friday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, women in motorsports as well. Got some things, I think, coming up with the F1 Academy, which is going to be great to see. Saturday, noon Eastern, the Grid Live pre-race show as well. Tons of action going on as we look at IndyCar, MotoGP, and everything coming up with IMSA too. It's going to be fun. Sunday, Grid Live wrap up. That's 90 minutes after the NASCAR Cup Series race at Martinsville Speedway. And Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern as well, the Grid Live Encore show, a recap of Trucks, Xfinity at Martinsville, and more, probably including Moto 3 and Moto 2 as well, and Indy Lights at Long Beach as well. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you for helping us reach our milestone of 600 subscribers recently. Now let's see if we can reach 700 subscribers as well. Don't forget to hit the bell icon to get notifications of all our videos, and follow all our social media platforms, and visit gridranking.com. Take 5 minutes to invest in the Grid Network through Patreon. Join Colin, Mark, Deshelle, Robin and David in investing each month in the Grid Network, and we encourage you to join the amazing group of people who keep us on the air. And once we hit $500 per month, we can start expanding our coverage, adding new members to the team, and increased Grid Network presence on site, covering the races from the track and more content as well. The link for all that is in the video description. And if you want to do a one-time donation, click on the Buy Me a Coffee link and get your name on the board as well, and invest as much as you want, and consider buying a specific on-air personality a cup of coffee, and they'll thank you on the air. A great show tonight, as always, for Kobe Lambeth at the podium finish and Matt White from Grid EPI. Even Naomi says, great show, guys. I'm Joshua Birch. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching us right here on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe and check out some of our other videos, including Life on the Grid, where we interview folks from the motorsports industry. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.